Winter arrives quietly in the Middle Ages, not with celebration, not with beauty, but with fear. By the time the first snow covers the fields, the most important question of the year has already been answered. Is there enough food to survive? For most people, the answer is uncertain. In medieval Europe, winter is not a season. It is a test. When the harvest ends in autumn, all work turns toward preparation. Grain is stored. Vegetables are buried in cold earth. Animals are slaughtered early, because feeding them through winter is often impossible. Nothing grows once the ground freezes. No fresh food appears for months. What people eat in winter depends entirely on what they manage to save. Bread becomes the foundation of survival. But it is not white bread. It is dark, dense, heavy bread made from rye, barley, or oats, often mixed with husks, straw, or ground peas to make it last longer. Fresh bread is rare. Most of it is baked once, then left to harden. By midwinter, it is so tough it must be soaked in water, broth, or weak ale just to be eaten. If bread runs out, hunger begins immediately. Vegetables are the next line of defense. Cabbage, turnips, onions, leeks, stored in cellars or pits. Many rot before winter ends. Others freeze. People cut away spoiled parts and eat what remains. Taste does not matter. Only calories do. Meat is a luxury few can afford. Most animals are slaughtered in late autumn. The meat is salted, smoked, or dried. Salt is expensive. Poor families use it sparingly. By winter's end, meat portions shrink to almost nothing. Fat is more valuable than flesh. Bones are boiled again and again to extract whatever nourishment remains. For many families, soup becomes the only meal. Thin, watery, barely sustaining, grains stretched as far as possible. A single handful feeds an entire household. As winter deepens, food changes. Cats disappear from villages. Dogs follow. Not from cruelty, but desperation. Horses are rarely eaten. They are too valuable, but in extreme winters, even they are not spared. Hunger rewrites morality. In forests, people gather what nature offers, even in the cold. Tree bark is scraped, dried, and ground into flour. Pine needles are boiled for liquid that tastes bitter, but keeps scurvy away. Acorns are collected, soaked for days to remove toxins, then crushed into meal. Mushrooms gathered in autumn are dried and saved, though many fear poisoning. Nothing is wasted. Rats are trapped. Birds caught if possible. Anything that moves becomes potential food. In towns, hunger looks different, but is no less brutal. Markets empty quickly. Prices rise beyond reason. Bread riots break out when supplies vanish. People fight not for wealth, but for survival. The poor starve first. The elderly, the sick, children. Monasteries sometimes distribute food, but supplies are limited. Charity cannot defeat winter. As food disappears, bodies change. People grow thin, weak, faces hollow. Work becomes harder, but stopping is not an option. Hunger dulls the mind. Cold dulls the body. Illness spreads faster when nutrition fails. A simple cough becomes deadly. A wound refuses to heal. Winter becomes a silent killer. Religion offers explanation, but not relief. Hunger is seen as punishment, a test from God, a consequence of sin. People pray before eating, even when there is almost nothing on the plate. Gratitude is expected, even in misery. Children learn hunger early. They are given smaller portions, sometimes none at all. Parents choose who eats and who waits. By late winter, hope is thin. Every day is counted, every crumb measured. People dream of spring, not for warmth, but for food. When snow finally melts and the first green appears, survival feels like victory. Those who lived did not live well. They endured. For medieval people, winter food was never about comfort. It was about making it one more day, and many did not. Hunger was not a rare disaster. It was a recurring part of life. Every winter carried the same question. Would there be enough? Often the answer was no. In some winters, hunger was mild. In others, it became catastrophic. A single failed harvest was enough to destroy an entire region. Too much rain in summer, an early frost, a disease among crops, and suddenly, winter became an enemy no one could escape. In northern Europe, winters were longer and darker. Snow buried villages for months. Travel stopped entirely. Food that had been carefully stored spoiled in damp cellars. Grain molded, root vegetables turned black and soft. People ate them anyway. In mountain regions, survival depended on isolation. Families lived almost completely cut off from the world. What they had in autumn was all they would have until spring. In coastal areas, fish offered some relief. Dried cod, salted herring. Shellfish gathered in dangerous winter storms, but storms killed just as many as hunger. For inland villages, there was no such option. As supplies vanished, social order weakened. Neighbors watched each other closely. Who still had food? Who was hiding something? The idea of sharing faded. As desperation grew, trust became dangerous. The weakest members of society suffered first. Widows without land, orphans, the disabled. They relied on charity, and charity ran out quickly. Some were forced to beg, others simply disappeared. In extreme cases, villages abandoned their sick, not out of cruelty, but fear. Fear of infection. Fear of wasting food on those unlikely to survive. Winter forced impossible choices. Hunger also changed the relationship between people and animals. Livestock was no longer seen as future wealth, but immediate survival. Breeding animals were slaughtered, milk cows killed, seed grain eaten. These decisions saved lives in winter, but doomed the next harvest. Survival today meant starvation tomorrow. Famine was not just hunger, it was collapse. Records from monasteries describe people eating grass, leaves, leather belts boiled into broth. Shoes were cut apart and cooked. Books mention people chewing wood until their mouths bled. In the worst years, even the unthinkable occurred. Cannibalism, though rarely spoken of, was known, whispered, hidden. It was seen not as evil, but as the final proof that the world had broken. Religion tried to explain it all. Priests spoke of divine punishment, of moral decay, of the need for repentance. Public fasts were declared, even during famine. People fasted while already starving. Faith did not disappear, it intensified. The hungrier people became, the more they prayed. Processions marched through frozen streets, barefoot, bleeding, begging God for mercy. Sometimes, mercy never came. Winter also reshaped memory. Children who survived famine never forgot it. They grew into adults who hoarded food, who feared empty shelves, who measured life in stored grain. Even in good years, fear lingered. Every autumn carried anxiety. Every full cellar was counted again and again, because everyone knew one bad winter could erase everything. Spring did not always bring relief. Bodies weakened by hunger could not recover. Disease followed famine, like a shadow. Typhus, dysentery, plague. Those who survived winter often died in spring. To medieval people, hunger was not an exception. It was a rhythm of life, a recurring disaster that shaped how society functioned. It determined marriage ages, family size, work patterns, belief. People planned their entire lives around the possibility of starvation. Food was never taken for granted. Not for kings, not for peasants. And when we imagine medieval winter meals, we must understand this. It was not cuisine, it was endurance. A bowl of thin soup, a crust of bread, a boiled root. That was victory. That meant another sunrise. And for millions of people across centuries, that was all they ever hoped for.